Vigilance, conversion, faithfulness. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome, this time my readers, to the Turkish land, Biblical Asia Minor. I still remember that the Pope from Poland referred to the following sentence in his homeland in 1979 in the capital of Poland in Warsaw, during his first pilgrimage to his compatriots. Let your spirit descend, your spirit, and renew the face of the earth, this land. But to do this, we need to recognize God's presence in the life of societies, including the individual, and so on. That's why I would say I have Doppler effect in my eye. How to explain this? For example, I can observe with my right eye on a microscale the effect of the redshift of the first galaxies in the universe. We recognize in the third millennium of Christianity, I am constantly not so much going down, but coming down from the mountains. See, meeting John Paul II with the inhabitants of Wadowice city in 2002. From the mountains of modern science, I'm going down. And this time I still hear that red light stretches the images that reach me from the outside, especially from the furthest event horizon, on the principle accepted by science in physics, Doppler effect. This effect is best confirmed by my observation of the setting sunset, when I fly above the clouds and watch the sunset from the plane window. The sunlight receives a portion of out of this world jets. Meanwhile, not only me, but also the world, with its achievements and new technologies, will continue to surprise the grey earthling for a long time. Science offers us something new again, because the light reaching us from billions of years ago through space was stretched and shifted from the visible range to the infrared range. This happens, among others, according to the scientifically recognized principle of the Doppler effect. Let us note here that the enormous light-collecting power of the Hubble Space Telescope was not sufficient, as it could only observe radiation in the visible and near-infrared range. Only the James Webb Space Telescope was supposed to provide the opportunity to observe the first objects in the universe, whose light now reaches us in the mid and far infrared range. The first step we must take to recognize God's presence now, and this is to recognize that we are sinners and need forgiveness, says the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, Franciscan order. Last Sunday we saw the relationship between the Lord and history. In a sense, we find it again today. The first word with which the Gospel of St. Mark begins is ark, which means beginning, foundation. This is the word with which the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, begins, which tells the story of creation. Find there is the book of Exodus. Behold, I am sending an angel ahead of you to keep you on your way and to bring you to the place and have appointed for you. Then the prophet Malachi. Behold, I will send my angel to prepare the way before me. And finally, there is truly the prophet Isaiah. Prepare a way for the Lord in the wilderness. Make smooth a highway for our God in the wilderness. Quote end. What does these words, three quotes, have in common is the path, the way. It is also the path along which God himself walks with his people, the path from which the Lord comes because God returns and walks again with his people. All this, says Mark, is gospel, which means good news, a word full of hope. It is Jesus himself who proclaims the good news, but Jesus himself is also good news. Preaching and preaching overlap. The good news in Jesus became history. St. Mark, again the first verse, gives us two important clues that allows us to understand where this path will lead us. The evangelist immediately gives us a definition of Jesus and confirms that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, sent by God, the promised king from the house of David, who will fulfill the writing of the prophets. He also says that this man is the Son of God. He is God himself. St. Mark therefore reminds us from the very beginning what the goal is, where one will reach who sets out on a journey starting from the new beginning, which is Jesus himself. It tells where the one who reads this gospel step by step will reach. And indeed, the Gospel of St. Mark can be divided into two parts. The culmination of the first part is Peter's confession of faith. Mark chapter 8, verse 29, who announces that Jesus is the Christ, the awaited Messiah. The second part goes further and lead to a new confession of faith, the centurion of the cross. Mark 15, verse 39, who seeing Jesus dying in this way exclaims, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." So we are told that we are on a journey. Our journey should reach the cross, where we realize that in the beginning there is the love of the crucified God. There is an absolute newness that is the newness of God who dies for men. The pilgrimage of God among people reaches this point. This discovery comes at the end of the road, long road, as a grace, not a merit. You have to go through the entire path of preparation and conversion to reach such a profession of faith. We will have to go through the entire gospel step by step in order to gradually strip ourselves of our false images of God and ourselves and arrive there like the pagan centurion who received the grace to recognize in this death the manifestation of God among men. To open this new path, man was sent before us to prepare the way, to renew our awareness that something new is beginning and that the time has come for which we must prepare well. And so, as soon as John the Baptist began to be baptized, crowds immediately began to flock to him, and all the countryside of Judea, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. The way is open again, the way in the desert where the Lord returns. People have found their way back and are on the road again. Many of them left Jerusalem, the temple, and the sacrifices, because all this was no longer enough to quench their thirst, and they ran into the desert where a new voice that had been silent for so long sounded again. At this point, let me return to Ząbkowice village of my childhood. There was still is Szosowa Street, which for me was the main artery of the village, leading from the church, the most important post for our residents, also from the primary school and the municipal recreation park, and leading us north towards Sikorka and Hruszczobród villages, and then to Zawiercie city. Trees have grown in the park, even the local monument recalling the Polish resistance to Nazism in World War II seems to have faded and taken on a different image. Today, The red bricks and the previous base for this road are not visible because there is asphalt. But this road has also become flattened and straighter. It no longer goes up like that, although it still seems to have its historic hump behind the fire station building. Here I would like to mention my loyalty to this upward road from Ząbkowice to Zawiercie. There are now other bypasses in Ząbkowice, this district of Dąbrowa Górnicza now. Certainly no one remembers that view of our Szosowa Street and Gospodarcza Street, close to the church. I wanted to remind you of my vigilance and the remembered and forgotten feeling towards this place in this Advent of the life given to us. For last Sunday theme was vigilance, which is a way of being in the Word and recognizing God's presence in it. Today we are asked to convert, metanoia. The first step we must take to begin this process, to be able to recognize God's presence, is to stand in the truth, to recognize that we are sinners and need forgiveness, acknowledging God's presence in the world, admitting that we must change our path and prepare a new path that will lead us to our source, to God. In short, a path where He can meet us. This is what the conversion that John the Baptist talks about is about, accepting the fact that there is a path by which God comes to meet us even before we can go to Him. Postscriptum. On December 10, 24th day of prayer and material assistance to the Church in the East, I would like not to forget about the poor, entrusting them to the care of Our Lady Immaculate. Author.